So it's time for yet another podcast where the Yap members get together and agree, disagree, possibly gouge each other's eyes out. Yap versus Yap, as we call it. Pleased to be once again joined by fellow Yappers, Alec Toombs and Omar Brito. How you guys doing?
Good, thanks.
Good morning, Chris.
So as much as I like being with you guys, and it's such a pleasurable experience, we've been thinking about this idea. I've actually had this idea for a podcast for like 3 or 4 years. It's movies that we love, but they are hard to watch. And what that means is just what it sounds. It's like it's a good movie. It's a movie we respect. But it's not the sort of movie that you watch over and over again because the material is thematically it's tough, or it disturbs you on some personal level. So it's not a movie that you've necessarily watched over and over again because it is just a hard watch. So one movie, when I was first coming up with the idea for this, the movie, which was then fairly recent, that really kind of sparked the idea for it was a movie called 127 Hours. And this is, of course, based on a true story, Danny Boyle movie with James Franco. Do I have that right? Which of the Franco brothers was it? It's one of the
It was James.
One of the Franco's brothers. Yep. True story about a hiker trapped in a area while he's hiking all alone and has to end up cutting off his own arm to free himself. That movie, I remember when it came out. This is right after Danny Boyle won the Oscar for Slumdog Millionaire. I might have even been his follow-up movie, if my memory serves. So I had high hopes for it, and I saw it, and it just blew me away. It was one of my favorite. I think I put it as my number 1 or number 2 movie of that year. But it absolutely died at the box office. No one went to see it. I have not watched it again since, even though I think I have it on Blu-ray. It's just a tough movie for me. I mean, obviously, I'm not someone with a weak stomach for movies, for gory stuff, but just because it's such emotionally tough of him in there with this, he's trapped and, he realizes he's going to have to do something extreme to save his own life. It's a movie that I love, but man, I'm not sure if I'll ever watch it again.
You seem to respond to that movie a lot better than I did. I admired Franco's performance and thought it was probably better than the movie itself.
Yeah.
But I probably wouldn't watch it again just because I wasn't as hot on it as you were.
Omar, I don't know if you had any reaction to that one, or you probably didn't even see it because, like, most people did not.
Oh no, I'm a huge Danny Boyle fan. I'll watch anything he does. I'm less so of a James Franco fan, but I did watch it. I think did he use a pocket knife or something?
Yeah, or like a folding knife.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I might not watch it again just because maybe I wasn't enthralled with it, not because of the content. I think if I'm going to rewatch a Danny Boyle film, there's dozens more I'd rather watch than that one. So yeah, it didn't really do it for me. I mean, I think maybe just Franco's performance was good, but it just wasn't something I want to go back to.
Okay. Well, Omar, what's a movie from your list?
One of the movies I picked was Under the Skin.
Yeah.
Is it? Let me see. 2013. Jonathan Glazer. He's the director of Sexy Beast, which one of my favorites. I love Sexy Beast. I haven't seen the other one with Nicole Kidman, Birth.
It's his worst movie, in my opinion.
It's his what?
Birth, I think, was Glazer's weakest movie.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Perfect. But yes, so this is a novel. I actually did read the novel. So the movie, I think, is the most famous, and I hate to be crude, but it's just because Scarlett Johansson is fully nude. And she has no, I've read articles where she felt that was something that she needed to take off her clothes to basically show the character. If you're not familiar with the movie or the book, she is an alien who basically goes up and down the streets of, in the movie, it's in the city. She's in Glasgow, Scotland. In the novel, she's in the countryside, still same country, but what she does is she picks up hitchhikers.
Yeah.
So she looks for male hitchhikers who are very athletic and sturdy, because she's basically looking for the best cut of meat. So that's her job, is to harvest meat for her. She's living in this planet, but she's sending the meat gets sent off world to her home planet. So
and then it's kept much more circumspect in the movie. Like, we don't even really understand. She just seems like this strange woman who's going around picking up men and killing them. And it's really not towards the end of the film do you really get a sense like, okay, she's actually not human.
Correct. And this is a movie where not much is said, and it's all done, through the lens, basically through the lens. What's really cool is I wrote down in my notes. I wrote this is like a mixture of Taxi Cab Confessions meets Motel Hell.
Yeah.
Because she's driving around the city and she's just talking to these men, and they're basically, depending on what they tell her, if in the book, if they're married or they have children, she doesn't take them. But if they're single, she takes them. But the thing about the movie that I found that was interesting is a lot of the people in the cars that she's driving around were normal non-actors. They installed cameras in the car, and then she spoke to them naturally. And if the scene was good, then they'd have the person sign an agreement saying, "Hey, this is a movie." So I thought that was pretty neat. So it kind of gives the movie like kind of a documentary feel. Yeah. In some parts, but in other parts, it's like otherworldly. The scene where the victims are being prepared for their meat, it just blew my mind, and I don't want to see it again. It's beautiful. Yeah. It's beautiful. There's a haunting scene on a beach with a crying baby. Yeah, it gives me goosebumps remembering that scene. But Scarlett Johansson I think she's great for this role because she's an absolute beautiful woman, but this character, she plays it so cold, so emotionless. And throughout the movie, she's starting to kind of have doubts about what she's doing, and kind of starts viewing the meat that she's harvesting as maybe they're not as emotionless or dumb as what she once thought. And in the book, which is nice, there's actually some themes of meat eaters versus vegans and that kind of discussion. But I find it to be absolutely beautiful cinematography. It's very methodically paced. Will I watch it again? Probably not. I mean, I read the book. I've kind of have a good. I've had enough of that world. But yeah, it's not enough people have seen it, but I think they should.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris.
I was just saying, the one thing about that movie, again, I've not seen it since. And yeah, a movie where Scarlett Johansson is copiously nude, you'd think people would be rewatching it, but no, it's a tough watch. The sequence I remember that disturbed me the most was that she ends up meeting this man who has some kind of physical deformity. Yes. And obviously he's extremely vulnerable, not the sort of guy who is used to attractive women talking to him or hitting on him or anything like that. And, I thought it was like done with makeup, and like I read afterwards that was like a real non-actor that they found, which brought up all these sorts of conflicting emotions about the making of the movie and what's in the movie. But yeah, I agree. The movie's brilliant movie, tough to watch. Alec?
I own the Blu-ray. I haven't watched it since I saw it in the theater. There are visuals in that movie that are going to stick with me for the rest of my life. He brought up the baby on the beach, and I flashed back almost a decade ago to seeing the movie. So yeah, it packs a punch for sure.
Yeah. Is your DVD unopened, or is it still?
I think I unwrapped the Blu-ray, okay. But
Blu-ray.
I haven't popped it in the player.
Oh God, I have so many unopened Blu-rays and even DVDs. I'm ashamed of. Alec, what's one from your list?
I could probably just talk about both of mine together because they kind of pair nicely or not so nicely together. And speaking of owning things on physical media and not watching them, I own both of these movies, and I'm not throwing them on a Friday night when I want to hang out and watch a movie. My movies are Steven Spielberg's Schindler's List and Terry George's Hotel Rwanda. Just seeing the atrocities visited upon people who don't deserve them. I think the movies are brilliant. I think the movies are beautiful. It's just hard to watch them. For sure.
Wow. Yeah.
Not like Jerry Seinfeld. I'm not going to make out through Schindler's List or anything, but I don't know. For me, I might have seen Schindler's List 2 times, maybe 3 in the 30 or so years it's been out. Just a tough sit, despite being one of my favorite filmmakers' best films.
Yeah, I would agree on both of those. I have seen Schindler's List several times, but not recently. I don't think I've watched it in probably about 15 years. I think Hotel Rwanda was one I saw when it came out, and I don't think I've seen it since again. I mean, I think those are tough movies thematically because it's about, it's not an alien killing humans. It's not, sure, supernatural events hurting humans. It's humans hurting humans. Not just in a mean spirit or greedy way, but just like genocidal. This thing of you and everyone like you needs to not exist. And obviously just anything like that with that brings up like Nazism or Maoist China or anything like that. Just the greatest evils visited upon the human history. Yeah, it's something that just sort of like reaches right in your chest and grabs your heart, and it's just like this evil that cannot be. Yeah, those are great examples. Omar, you have any thoughts on those?
Yeah, I think I want to go a little different. I'm going to say that Ray Fiennes. That's who I remember when I think of Schindler's List.
Mm-hmm.
I think of Ray Fiennes being just very scary, but a very just commanding the screen. He was the character that I don't know. When I think of that movie, I think of him, even though I don't think of the Liam Neeson very much. There's just something about what Ray Fiennes did in that role that was this. But I'm not going to watch it again. Yeah, I mean, I think I saw it in the theaters. That's probably one of the movies on this list that we're going to talk about that I think I saw in the theaters. Hotel Rwanda, I saw it, probably diminished the impact of it because I saw it at home. I saw it on like a rental. Both those films, I mean, I'm not going to watch them again. There was something related to Hotel Rwanda that occurred recently. Did the main character, the person that Don Cheadle played, did that character recently pass away? I think I might have seen a real world event. So there's like, because suddenly Hotel Rwanda was in the news a couple weeks ago, and I thought maybe it had something to do with his character.
If that happened, I missed it, unfortunately. But,
okay. All right, Omar, what's another one from your list?
Sure. I guess I'll do 2000 Requiem for a Dream.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that movie. You know why I remember that movie so well? Because I spent the last 10 minutes standing up.
Oh, wow.
I wasn't in the theater, so I didn't see it in the theater. I was visiting a friend over the summer, and we both decided, hey, let's go to Blockbuster. Let's rent this movie. I've been a big fan of Aronofsky because I watched Pi like several dozen times. I thought it was really cool. And this movie just, I think if you have a movie where if you flip to it, you'll sit and watch it. Well, yeah. I won't sit and watch it.
Yeah.
I won't. This is a movie where the style is so. I remember reading Darren Aronofsky kind of did it like a music video with a lot of quick jump cuts, right? And
the editing in that movie is wild, for sure.
And the most iconic thing in that movie are the eyes.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? When they'd get high, the pupils would zoom in and out, zoom in and out. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of eyes in that movie. And I still think Ellen Burstyn should have won the Academy Award that year over Julia Roberts. Julia Roberts won that year for Erin Brockovich, and I think Ellen Burstyn might have had maybe a little bit more acting to do in that movie. But yeah, if you don't know the movie, it's about addiction. You know, it's the Jared Leto, Marlon Wayans, Jennifer Connelly, and Ellen Burstyn plays Jared Leto's mother. So this movie is directed by Darren Aronofsky. It's from a book by Hubert Selby Jr. And it's basically about addictions and whatever form that may be. So the Jared Leto and Marlon Wayans are addicted. They're like small time hustlers, and they want to break out of their tax bracket. So they go up to selling heroin. His mother, played by Ellen Burstyn, she somehow gets it in her head that she's going to be a contestant on a TV show, kind of like The Price is Right. And then she has this fantasy of this red dress that she needs to fit into the red dress. So what does she start doing? She starts taking diet pills.
Yeah.
So it's basically parallel stories chronicling the downfall of addiction, and it's told from the heroin user's point of view versus the diet pills point of view. Right. And I remember reading that Darren Aronofsky said, addiction is addiction. It doesn't matter. We might judge Jared Leto's character worse, but what happens to Ellen Burstyn, the scene when she gets institutionalized, I'm getting goosebumps remembering that scene. Yeah. She has the ECT done. They put the bit in her mouth, and they're zapping her forehead. Do you guys remember that? Do you guys remember that scene? And people are throwing up, and the limbs are being amputated, and there's a sex act between two women and a bunch of sweaty old men. Okay, I don't want to talk about that movie.
Narrated by David Keith, or at least David Keith's talking about it.
David Keith.
Very memorably.
Yes.
Omar, you're like going into PTSD just thinking about it, I think.
Well, I love these films that make me feel things.
Yeah.
But I think I don't have to watch them again, because just talking about them I'm reliving.
Yeah. Well, I think that's it, because like just being grossed out. Like I recently watched the horror movie Terrifier 2, which is being talked about as one of the grossest movies ever. And you go into that because there's no emotions with that. Whereas I think you said it exactly right. The reason these films have affected so much is because they make us feel powerfully. They grip us. They manipulate us, and we can't let go.
I sincerely believe Requiem should be shown in every high school in America. Like, if you want kids not to do drugs, show them this movie when they're 14 or 15 years old. It is also part of this subgenre of movies from that era that I love. Bad things happening to Jared Leto. If you look at Fight Club, he just gets demolished. American Psycho, he gets murdered with an axe. Then Red Line, he pops up and gets machine gunned like immediately. Panic Room, he gets his arm caught in a security door. I like watching bad things happen to Jared Leto, even if it is in a very serious and profound movie, such as Requiem for a Dream.
Okay, we got a couple left here. I'm going to do another one. This is also one of the ones that I thought of when I first had the idea for this podcast, which is Boys Don't Cry, which, of course, is the movie that really made Hilary Swank a star, won her Oscar. Interesting movie that, now is on a topic that, now, back then they didn't really talk about transgenderism or things like that. I think they called it like gender dysmorphia or something like that. It was very much couched as like a mental illness within the culture that character lives in, not, her own story or his own story. But yeah, another movie where, just such terrible things happen to this character that is so vulnerable, and we end up identifying with. That was the thing, I identified with that character so powerfully, even though he was going through things that, I haven't experienced or really understand. But I think that's what makes movies like that so visceral and so empathetic, is when you can take these characters who are so very, very different from ourselves, and you feel powerfully what they feel. Also, again, a movie where there's a rape scene that is just one of the hardest things on film to watch ever, because it's not like this violent, someone jumps out and beats the crap out of somebody and rapes them. It's more like almost like a, friends negotiating this encounter, where from their, the two male characters saw him in one way and now see him in a different way, so they feel like they've got to act as aggressors, and just, and then they have like this almost like a conversation afterwards, like they're back to being like bro dudes. I mean, it's just so fucked up. That whole scene, that whole sequence is just so fucked up.
Yeah.
For movie, some really good performances. I mean, Swank's amazing in the movie. Chloe Sevigny is really good in the movie. The attackers, I believe it was Peter Sarsgaard and Brendan Sexton III. Both right. Actors I've seen a lot of other stuff, and who are really always reliably good and powerfully so in this movie.
Yeah, right. The minute I heard, sorry, Chris, the minute I heard you say Boys Don't Cry, I said Brandon, Tina Brandon, Brandon, Tina Brandon. That's that. And then I thought of her or his interactions with Chloe Sevigny and the sock down the front of the pants, and all that. Yeah. It's a good movie. I don't want to watch it again.
It's a movie that I don't think, from the perspective of the transgender community, has aged well. Like, they would look at, how people talked about bodies and terms and pronouns and things like that 23 years ago, and it wouldn't fit with the language today. So it's probably not a film that, from that perspective, has aged well. But for me, the emotions have never grown any less powerful. All right, Omar, why don't you bring us on home with your last pick?
Sure, thank you. My last pick is it's a beautiful little love flick, 2002's Irreversible. I was so Gaspar Noé is very, very if Howard Stern's a shock jock, then is Gaspar Noé a shock director? I guess I don't know. He's got Climax and Love and other stuff that escapes me. But I was always a huge fan of Vincent Cassel. I've been a big fan of Vincent Cassel forever, and he actually made this movie with his wife Monica Bellucci. So I think what people remember the
his
most.
Wife at the time. I don't think they're together anymore.
No, that's correct. That's correct. I think what people, if you ask them, do you know about Irreversible? They'll say, oh, that's the film that is in reverse. So the ending is the beginning, and but one thing that I remember reading is that there was only in theaters, so only the theater goers got this experience. But Noe piped in a 27 hertz audio track.
I saw the movie in the theater when I was in college.
You did? Yeah. Okay.
Me and two of my buddies went and saw it.
Oh, no. So what I read about it's like infrasonic, and what that does, that audio noise actually, it induces nausea and vertigo and sickness. And what people use that noise for is like to quell riots. So when you're watching the first 30 minutes of the movie, in certain theaters, you're feeling nauseous and sick, and that's intentional, because you're going to feel nauseous and sick during the rest of the movie. Wow. So your movie, your Boys Don't Cry, had a rape scene. Irreversible has a rape scene that is like never-ending rape scene.
Yeah, it's either 9 minutes or 11 minutes long.
Yeah, yes.
Forget which, but it's long.
Yeah. So it's basically Monica Bellucci's character's raped, and then Vincent Cassel plays her boyfriend, and he and her ex-boyfriend, they try to figure out who was the person responsible for raping Monica Bellucci, and it doesn't really go as well as they want it to go. I think the story is about how revenge is futile, and time is fleeting. Interesting thing is it's like 17 years later, Noe released this movie in chronological order. I didn't see that version of it. I don't know if, did you see that version of it, Alec?
No.
I haven't. I probably won't.
You won't. You won't.
I remember
Yeah.
after seeing the movie in the theater with my buddies, we went to Steak and Shake. Because I'm a monster, I was like eating a Frisco melt after the movie, where one of my buddies was in this booth with his legs curled up, like in the fetal position, just hugging himself. He's like, I can't eat. I just need some time. Yeah. And that's a doozy of a movie, man.
Yeah, I think I need another 20 years.
Yeah. Well, so we talk about all movies. I like to say all movies are manipulative, and certainly with the audio track, which I did not know about that, talked about the height of manipulation. But I think what ties all these movies together is obviously they're manipulative and they make you, they stoke the audience to feel a certain way, but they're doing it in a very empathetic, draw you in kind of way, not trying to just shock for shock's sake. They're not trying to gross you out or doing like that. They're trying to make you feel what's happening to the characters in the movies. And because it's these terrible, terrible things that are happening, you feel terrible. But even though in a lot of cases, these are movies I've only seen one time, I remember them with extraordinary clarity. And to me, that's always the ultimate test of how impactful a movie is how well I remember it years and years later, even if I've only seen it once.
I will say this, Hilary Swank, I think, is like the opposite of Jared Leto. I hate seeing horrible things happen to her. $1 Million Baby is a great movie, but I don't really want to watch it again. Boys Don't Cry is a great movie, but I don't really want to watch it again. Yeah,
$1 Million Baby would be another good movie to include in here. But yeah, it's great. Well, I'll tell you what, I love these movies. I do have a hard time watching these movies. I do not have a hard time watching you guys and talking with you. So thanks once again for joining me. We always enjoy doing this, and we'll see you next time. See you.